Word, ocean. Description, a large area of salt water. It covers most of the Earth's surface and contains many different kinds of plants and animals. It's a vast and important part of our planet, often associated with travel and exploration. Phrases of example. First, the sea, once it had begun to be a life, was no longer a sea. Second, the ocean is full of wonders, but it can also be cruel. Third, she felt the vastness of the ocean, a mirror to her own loneliness. Word, violation. Description, denotes an act that breaks a law, rule, or agreement. It signifies a failure to adhere to established guidelines or boundaries, often carrying legal or ethical implications. It suggests a transgression or breach of a set standard. Phrases of example. First, the violation of those principles is a crime against humanity. Second, such a violation of trust is not easily forgiven, nor should it be. Third, the silence was a violation, a denial of everything he believed in. Word, example. Description, a thing that shows how something works or how something is. It can be a person, place, object, or situation used to illustrate a point or explain an idea. It's a demonstration of something. Phrases of example. First, his example is a good one to follow. Second, let me give you an example of what I mean. Third, take this as an example and do better. Word, fond. Description, means to have affection or a liking for someone or something. It suggests a warm, tender feeling and a sense of enjoyment. It's often used to describe feelings towards people, places, or activities. Phrases of example. First, he was fond of the way she laughed, a melody to his ears. Second, I was fond of the quiet life, the simple routines. Third, she was particularly fond of her grandmother's stories. Word, 60. Description, it represents the number 60. It's used to count or indicate quantity, age, or measurement. It's a basic number used in everyday conversations and simple calculations. Phrases of example. First, 60 years later, the village was still the same. Second, he was 60. Third, I'm 60 and I still can't believe what happened. Word, bed. Description, a place to sleep. It's a piece of furniture designed for resting and sleeping comfortably. It can also refer to a hospital bed or a river bed. Phrases of example. First, she laid her head upon the bed. Second, he was a man who went to bed early. Third, he went to bed with his boots on. Word, politics. Description, refers to the activities and processes involved in governing a country or area. It encompasses power, policy making, and the actions of people in positions of authority. It can also refer to debate or discussion about important issues. Phrases of example. First, politics are like the weather, they change constantly. Second, politics is the least dirty game we know how to play. Third, politics are the shadows of real and genuine qualities. Word, put. Description, to place something in a specific location or position. It can also mean to use something, like put on clothes. It's a very common verb used for simple actions involving placement or application. Phrases of example. First, he put his hand on her shoulder. Second, I put the letter in my pocket. Third, put on your shoes and let's go. Word, bean. Description, a small, edible seed, often round or oval. It's a common ingredient in food, like soups, stews, or baked goods. Beans come in many colors and varieties and are a good source of protein. Phrases of example. First, a man's life is only as good as the bean he plants. Second, the whole world was a magic bean. Third, he was a man who lived his life on a diet of bean. Word, box. Description, a container, usually rectangular, with a flat bottom and sides. It can be made of different materials and used for storage or shipping items. It's a common, everyday object. Phrases of example. First, he kept his secrets locked away in a small box. Second, she put the letters in a box and forgot about them. Third, there's a box of memories that I can't bear to open. Word seal. Description can refer to a covering that closes something completely, preventing access or leakage. It can also denote a mark or emblem, often used for official purposes or authentication, signifying approval or legitimacy. Phrases of example. First, the royal seal bore the crest of the fallen kingdom. Second, a letter sealed with a promise, a hope bound tight. Third, the wax seal cracked, releasing a forgotten truth. Word warming. Description refers to the increase in Earth's average temperature. It's often used in the context of climate change, describing a long-term trend. It highlights the rising temperatures and their potential effects on the planet. Phrases of example. First, the warming of the Earth is a great concern. Second, the persistent warming had changed the landscape drastically. Third, a sense of comforting warming radiated from the hearth. Word colonial. Description relates to a period when a country controls other territories or people. It describes things connected to this historical era, like architecture, government, or culture, often implying a power dynamic and influence of a dominant nation. Phrases of example. First, the colonial gaze reduced them to objects, stripping them of their humanity. Second, his work challenged the colonial narrative, exposing its inherent biases. Third, she questioned the colonial legacy, seeking to reclaim her ancestral identity. Word engagement. Description denotes a formal agreement to marry. It can also refer to involvement or participation in something, like a project or discussion. It implies commitment and active involvement in a specific undertaking or relationship. Phrases of example. First, their engagement felt less a commitment and more a gilded cage. Second, the engagement between the two families was fraught with unspoken resentments. Third, his engagement to the work consumed him entirely, leaving no room for distraction. Word journal. Description, a record of events or thoughts, often written regularly. It can be a personal diary or a more formal publication containing articles on a specific topic. It implies documenting experiences, observations, or research findings. Phrases of example. First, she kept a journal, meticulously detailing every observation. Second, I have often wondered where my journal would take me. Third, the journalist kept a detailed journal of his experiences in the war. Word sustain. Description means to maintain or keep something going, often over a period of time. It can refer to supporting something physically or emotionally, or keeping a system or organization functioning. It implies endurance and continued existence. Phrases of example. First, we must sustain our courage, though hope seems lost. Second, only a sustained effort can achieve victory. Third, it takes considerable courage to sustain hope in the face of despair. Word training. Description refers to the process of learning skills or knowledge through instruction or practice. It's about gaining expertise, often for a specific job or activity. It can involve learning both practical and theoretical knowledge. Phrases of example. First, he had to go through a rigorous training to become a soldier. Second, the knight began his training with the best masters in the kingdom. Third, the dog received daily training and proved to be a marvelous assistant. Word outfit. Description refers to a set of clothes chosen to be worn together. It's a coordinated collection of items like a jacket, shirt, and pants, creating a complete look. It can also describe gear for a specific activity. Phrases of example. First, her outfit was a daring mix of vintage lace and modern tailoring. Second, he surveyed his outfit with a critical eye, adjusting the collar. Third, the ensemble, an elaborate outfit, shimmered under the stage lights. Word stake. Description represents something of value, money, reputation, etc. That could be lost if something fails or is at risk. It signifies a significant investment or involvement where the outcome is uncertain and carries potential consequences. Phrases of example. First, everything was at stake. We could lose everything. Second, her reputation was at stake, and she would not let it fall. Third, the future of the realm hung at stake, a fragile balance. Word, golf. Description, refers to a popular sport played on a large grassy area. Players use clubs to hit a small ball into a series of holes. It's a recreational activity, often played outdoors, and involves skill and precision. Phrases of example. First, he took his golf clubs and headed towards the club. Second, I knew it was a golf course, but I didn't know how to play. Third, the old man dreamed of playing golf again someday. Word, escape. Description, denotes the act of breaking free from confinement or a difficult situation. It signifies a successful departure from a place of restriction, danger, or unpleasant circumstances. It can also refer to avoiding a duty or responsibility. Phrases of example. First, the escape was as skillful as a dream. Second, he planned an escape, a return to the life he knew. Third, the hope of escape kept her going. Word, political. Description, related to the government, public affairs, or a party involved in gaining power. It describes systems, actions, or opinions concerning the way a country or community is governed. It often involves discussions of policy or elections. Phrases of example. First, political power is a dirty business. Second, political passions can be as destructive as love. Third, the political landscape was shifting, and no one knew what to expect. Word, extreme. Description, refers to something far beyond the average or typical. It describes a situation, feeling, or quality that is intense, severe, or exceptional. It's used when something is notably greater or less than usual. Phrases of example. First, an extreme lack of attention to detail cost them the game. Second, we walked an extreme distance to see the sunset. Third, the extreme heat warped the metal of the tracks. Word, happy. Description, describes a feeling of pleasure or joy. It means feeling good, content, and pleased with a situation or experience. It's a common word to express positive emotions and satisfaction. Phrases of example. First, happiness is not an illusion, it's a choice. Second, a happy person is never alone. Third, I want to be happy more than anything. Word, pig. Description, a farm animal, often pink or brown, known for its snout and curly tail. It's a common farm animal raised for meat and can also refer to a playful, informal term for a person. Phrases of example. First, I have been a pig all my life. Second, the pigs are in the pen. Third, he was a stubborn old pig. Word, supervise. Description, means to oversee and direct someone or something, typically to ensure quality or compliance. It suggests taking responsibility for a task or person's actions, offering guidance and monitoring progress to achieve specific goals. Phrases of example. First, he would supervise the factory's operations, ensuring optimal efficiency and minimal waste. Second, they assigned me to supervise the entire process, a daunting responsibility for someone so young. Third, the headmaster would routinely supervise the students' behavior, maintaining a strict order in the academy. Word, mobility. Description, refers to the ability to move or be moved freely. It can describe physical movement, but also the ability to adapt or change, often in a social or professional context. It implies a capacity for change and flexibility. Phrases of example. First, her mobility was severely hampered by the archaic customs she's faced. Second, a society's mobility is a direct consequence of its policies. Third, the inherent mobility of language defies attempts at rigid categorization. Word, key. Description means most important, principal, or essential. It describes something vital or crucial to a process or situation, often used to highlight a central element or factor needed for success or understanding. Phrases of example. First, the key to happiness is being happy. Second, the key element is to be kind. Third, the key is to trust yourself. Word, according to. Description means that something is stated or believed based on a source. It introduces information from a person, book, or website, showing where the information came from. It indicates a reported claim or fact. Phrases of example. First, according to the law, a man must be held innocent until he is proven guilty. Second, everything is beautiful. According to my opinion, everything is perfect. Third, according to my father, a man's life is a journey, and he must walk it alone. Word, correct. Description means accurate or free from error. It describes something that is right or in accordance with facts. It's used to indicate that something is factual, precise, or aligns with expectations. Phrases of example. First, it is correct to say that you are my friend. Second, the correct answer is not always the easiest one. Third, he tried to correct his mistakes, but it was too late. Word, vocal. Description describes someone who expresses their opinions freely and confidently, often publicly. It suggests a willingness to speak out and be heard, and can refer to both the volume and clarity of one's expression. Phrases of example. First, his vocal criticisms, though harsh, carried a strange elegance. Second, she possessed a vocal range that could captivate entire audiences. Third, the committee's vocal dissent challenged the proposed reforms. Word, legal. Description relates to laws and the legal system. Something legal is permitted by law, authorized, or in accordance with rules. It describes actions, documents, or situations that comply with established regulations and are not prohibited. Phrases of example. First, it was a legal certainty, and as such it was a trap. Second, the legal implications of this were immense. Third, he knew the legal steps he needed to take. Word, manager. Description, a person who is in charge of a business, team, or project. They direct and organize activities and are responsible for the performance and success of what they manage. Often holds authority and makes decisions. Phrases of example. First, he was a shrewd manager of his own affairs. Second, the manager smiled, a rare and unsettling sight. Third, she became the manager of a small bookstore. Word, interface. Description refers to a point where two systems, subjects, or organizations interact. It can be a physical connection or a metaphorical one, like a user interface on a device. It describes the boundary through which communication or exchange occurs. Phrases of example. First, the interface between their cultures was fraught with unspoken tensions. Second, the user interface proved to be both intuitive and visually appealing. Third, it is the interface between consciousness and reality. Word, runner. Description, a person who runs either as a sport or to move quickly. It can also refer to someone who delivers messages or goods, often used to describe someone participating in a race or a delivery person. Phrases of example. First, he was a swift runner, easily outstripping the hounds. Second, a runner can't win without pain. Third, the baker's daughter was a quick runner, always escaping his gaze. Word, late. Description means arriving or happening after the expected or planned time. It describes something that is not on schedule or has been delayed. It's often used with appointments, meetings, or buses. Phrases of example. First, I am late, I am late. Second, he was always late, always apologizing. Third, being late is a habit, like being on time. Word, relate. Description, to connect with someone or something, or to find something familiar. It can mean to have a shared feeling or experience, or to describe how one thing is connected to another. It implies a sense of understanding or association. Phrases of example. First, I can relate to that feeling of isolation. Second, we must learn to relate to one another with kindness and understanding. Third, it's hard to relate to a person who doesn't listen. Word, spirit. Description refers to a person's character or attitude. It can also mean the non-physical part of a person that is believed to survive after death. It describes someone's mood, enthusiasm, or the essence of a place or thing. Phrases of example. First, he had the spirit of a fighter. Second, the spirit is not the body, Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. Third, he felt a kinship with the spirit of the land. Word, differ. Description means to be unlike or distinct from something else. It implies a contrast or disagreement, showcasing that things are not the same. Used to highlight differences in opinion, characteristics, or qualities between two or more things. Phrases of example. First, they differ indeed, on most subjects of debate. Second, we differ in opinion, but not in purpose. Third, the two men differ greatly in their outlook on life. Word, amount. Description refers to a quantity or number of something. It can be used to describe how much of something there is, like money, time, or ingredients. It's often used when talking about numbers or quantities. Phrases of example. First, I will give you a certain amount of time to get ready. Second, a great amount of money was needed to fix the old house. Third, she felt a small amount of pity for the poor boy. Word, hockey. Description, a sport played on ice with sticks and a puck. Two teams try to score by hitting the puck into the other team's net. It's a fast-paced and exciting game popular in countries like Canada and the US. Phrases of example. First, he played hockey with a fierce determination, chasing every puck with relentless energy. Second, the children gathered to watch the exciting game of hockey, full of laughter and cheers. Third, the arena buzzed with the roar of the crowd, eager to see the thrilling hockey match. Word, creation. Description, creation refers to the act of bringing something into existence or the thing that is brought into existence. It can describe artistic works, natural phenomena, or the process of making something new. It often implies originality or innovation. Phrases of example. First, his greatest creation was not a masterpiece, but a life well. Second, the creation of the universe is a mystery that will forever elude us. Third, each act of kindness is a small creation of beauty in a flawed world. Word, judgment. Description refers to a reasoned opinion or decision. It describes the process of forming an opinion and the opinion itself. It can also refer to a formal assessment or evaluation, often involving careful consideration and analysis of available information. Phrases of example. First, the judgment of men is not to be feared. Second, their judgment was clouded by fear and anger. Third, it is easy to judge, but difficult to understand. Word, impression. Description is the feeling or idea that someone or something gives you. It's the overall feeling created by a person, place, or thing. It can be positive, negative, or neutral, and it's often formed quickly. Phrases of example. First, the first impression is the most important. Second, a good impression can open many doors. Third, his impression of the city was a confusing blur. Word, cute. Description describes something or someone attractive in a charming and endearing way, often implying youthfulness or innocence. It suggests a pleasant and appealing quality, frequently used to express affection or approval. Phrases of example. First, she was a cute little thing, about 8 years old. Second, he found her incredibly cute, with her messy hair and bright eyes. Third, the puppy was undeniably cute, with its floppy ears and wagging tail. Word, wave. Description means to move your hand or another body part to greet someone or signal something. It can also mean to move something in a rhythmic or undulating motion. It's used to acknowledge, signal, or describe movement. Phrases of example. First, he waved a hand to signal his goodbye. Second, the crowd waved banners in support of the cause. Third, she waved at him, a silent farewell. Word, insurance. Description refers to a contract that protects you from financial loss. It involves regular payments to an insurance company in exchange for coverage against specific risks or damages, like health issues or accidents. Phrases of example. First, she had taken out insurance against his death. Second, he needed insurance to cover his losses. Third, there was no insurance against the damage it caused. Word, genre. Description refers to a category or type of art, literature, music, or film. It's a way of classifying creative works based on shared characteristics like style, form, and subject matter. It helps organize and understand different artistic expressions. Phrases of example. First, the genre itself is a thing of convenience. Second, it's the genre that makes it special, the little things that set it apart. Third, this is a detective novel, a genre I enjoy immensely. Word, difficulty. Description refers to a state of being hard to do or deal with. It describes a problem or challenge that requires effort to overcome. It can relate to tasks, situations, or even understanding something complex. Phrases of example. First, there is a difficulty in having a good heart. Second, the greatest difficulty in life is to live. Third, he faced the difficulty with a quiet resolve. Word, shoulder. Description, the part of your body between your neck and arm. It's used for carrying things, or it can refer to the slope of something, like a road. It can also describe responsibility or someone who supports another person. Phrases of example. First, he put his hand on her shoulder and smiled at her. Second, he clapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're a good man." Third, she looked at him over her shoulder, a question in her eyes.